this is on page 86. Cumulative relative frequency graph. Now, I have to read it, but maybe if I explain it a little bit, it'll make more sense. So, in the history of the United States, at this time, there was a total of, we have had 44 presidents. So, what we're going to do is say, well, how many presidents were young between the ages of 40 and 44? And it was 2. So we say 2 divided by 44. We're going to just do this as a percentage. And we're going to say, well, that was about 4.5% of the presidents were young between those 2 ages. Now, what about from 45 to 49? Well, that was 7 presidents. Divide by 44, and you get, well, roughly 15.9% of the presidents were between those 2 ages. But we could say, well, what about this? How many presidents were less than 50 years old? Like a percentile, right? Well, all the presidents that were less than 50, well, there was 9 of them. We could say 9 divided by 44. That's going to be about 20.4%. So 20.4% of all the presidents were less than 50 years old. Percentile. Okay, let's take a look at that other piece of data that they give you on that page. Aha! So this might make a little bit more sense, because here's how many presidents, right, were between those 2 ages, and here's that percentage. Okay, here's the percentage. And they do 7 presidents were between these 2 ages, there's that percentage. But then they do the cumulative over here. Okay, so there were 7 presidents, but they add them together. 2 plus 7, 9. So 20% of our presidents were less than 50 years old. So for instance, 13 presidents were between these 2 ages. So you do 13 divided by 44. 29.5% of our presidents were between those 2 ages. But what we're going to do for a cumulative graph, we could say, well, how many presidents were less than 55 years old? All of those presidents less than 55 years old. And where are we at? We're at about 77.3. And then, of course, when you get to the top age, all of the presidents, right, 100% is going to be that at the end. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense here. Now let's take a look at the graph. Oh ho! So let's take a look. So here it is, right? Those right there, that's the presidents. Those were the young presidents, right? And this is a cumulative graph. So here we're saying that all of the presidents that were less than 50 years old, okay, less than 50 years old, there were 9 of them that were less than 50 years old. That's 20.5%. Aha, right there. 20.5% less than 50 years old. Okay, so that could be a percentile. The 50-year-olds are at the 20.5 percentile, right? 20.5% of the presidents were less than 50 years old. Okay, percentiles, right? That's what this is all about. This cumulative relative frequency graph is percentiles. Remember, it's all the stuff that's less than that thing you're looking at. So another way to look at it, or the same way, is let's look at this. The 50th percentile. What does that mean in this graph? Okay, here we are, the 50th percentile. Let's go over and down. Aha. Okay, so all the presidents that were less than 55 years old, 50% of them. So 50% of our presidents were between 40 and 54 years old, this group right there. So remember, percentile, all the stuff that's less than what you were looking at. Okay, hope that makes a little bit more sense. I'm not sure if I made it more confusing or not, but we will try to work with it tomorrow.